You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The man behind Trump's personal revenge machine should not be confirmed, based on an article by Robert Rye. The Justice Department has been privatized. Power, not procedure. Todd Blanche is not being described here as a conventional attorney general in waiting. He is being described as a loyalist and treats the Justice Department as an extension of Donald Trump's personal will. That is the central fact. The rest is administrative camouflage hearings, titles, and legal language used to obscure a simple transfer of institutional power from the public to one man's grievance machine. The source article is doing useful work by listing concrete acts, not abstract concerns, that matters, because this is not a story about controversy or political pressure. It is a record of an office being used to shield the president, punish his critics, and erase evidence of his wrongdoing. The Epstein files tell you matters. Blanche's handling of the Epstein records is the clearest example. The article says the Justice Department conceded it violated the Epstein Files Transparency Act with improper redactions, then kept dragging its feet while courts and transparency advocates pushed for compliance. Judge Emmett Sullivan ordered the department to unredact specific material or justify the concealment. That is not confusion. That is controlled withholding. When the department stalls on court orders about documents that may include emails, co-conspirators, and interview notes involving Trump, the question is not whether the process is messy. The question is who benefits from the delay. The answer is obvious: the people with the most to lose if the record becomes public. Blanche's private prison interview with Ghislaine Maxwell only sharpens the suspicion. The source does not prove a bargain. It does show a department operating in the dark around one of the most politically sensitive criminal archives in the country, with Trump's interests at the center. The enemy list is the job description. The article also shows how Blanche's office has become a delivery service for Trump's vendettas. John Brandon, Cassidy Hutchinson, James Kamine, and Act Lou, the Southern Poverty Law Center. These are not random prosecutorial priorities. They are a map of the president's resentments. Kamai's case is especially revealing because it shows how thin the standard for targeting has become. A beach photo, a social media post, a strained reading of 8647, and suddenly federal prosecutors are trying to make it look like a threat. That is not law enforcement in any serious sense. It is the weaponization of prosecutorial discretion against people Trump once humiliated or intimidated. The article is right to note that Blanche has promised White House officials he will move faster and more efficiently than his predecessor. That line tells you everything. Efficiency is not the virtue here. Obedience is. The department is being measured by how well it executes the president's targets. January 6th is being erased on purpose. The effort to wash January 6th out of the public record is even more blatant. Blanche delivered Trump's pardons to convicted rioters. Under his direction, the Justice Department removed news releases about January 6 prosecutions and labeled them partisan propaganda. That is a state institution helping rewrite its own history, not reinterpret it, erase it. This is how authoritarian politics behaves. When it gets hold of legal power, it does not merely excuse its own violence. It tries to destroy the evidence that the violence happened. The pardons, the website removals, the attempted fund that could have been routed to Capitol attackers, and Blanche's refusal to put his reversal in writing all point in the same direction. The aim is not closure. The aim is amnesty by attrition, with a record scrubbed clean enough to make accountability harder next time. The immunity deal is the real scandal. The most corrupt aspect of the article may be the one that most easily disappears into legal jargon of the settlement Blanche personally signed that would immunize Trump and his family from future prosecutions. The source says Blanche was the only signatory. It also says the agreement could block federal scrutiny of whatever corrupt dealings the family has undertaken. That is not ordinary legal settlement practice. It is preemptive impunity. If the top Justice Department official signs a document designed to protect the president and his relatives from investigation, then the office is no longer serving the law. It is serving the dynasty. The article's warning is sharp for a reason. If the immunity provision stands, it could become one of the largest cover-ups of presidential wrongdoing in American history. That is not melodrama. That is what happens when the state's investigative power is turned inward and shut off, a department being hollowed out. Blanche is also presiding over a mass institutional purge. The article says more than a quarter of the department's legal staff has left, including people connected to January 6 and Jack Smith investigations. The Civil Rights Division has been gutted. The voting section is down from 30 attorneys to 3. Defending executive actions has been stripped of lawyers. Senior prosecutors have walked out. This is what capture looks like in practice. You do not need a dramatic coup if you can drain the institution, drive out the people who know how to resist, and leave behind a smaller workforce trained to obey. The resulting collapse is then described as turnover when it is really political engineering, and the loss here is not abstract. A weaker Civil Rights Division means weaker enforcement. A depleted voting section means less capacity to protect democratic participation. Fewer public integrity lawyers means less ability to confront official corruption. The damage is not just internal morale, it is public vulnerability. The pattern. The article's most important contribution is that it shows the pattern clearly. Trump does not merely want loyal officials. He wants a Justice Department that functions as his private shield, private attack dog, and private memory hole. Blanche is the instrument that makes that possible. The framing in the piece is forceful because the conduct demands forceful framing. When the Attorney General's office suppresses records, pursues enemies, erases a political crime from its own website, seeks immunity for the president's family, and helps drain the department of experienced lawyers, the issue is not partisanship. The issue is institutional surrender. This is what democratic decline looks like when it is administered through law rather than broken by force. The machinery stays in place. The purpose changes. You've been listening to Systemic Error, thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Norman. Thanks for listening.